All right. Well, today on the podcast, we have Grace Barnett on the show. Welcome to the show, Grace.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Congratulations on second place at the 5K championships.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
It was really exciting. I was really happy. It was a great opportunity and just really glad I was able to be a part of the event.
What was that like being in New York City for a marathon weekend? You get to run your own race, you get to run the 5K, had a great race, and then you just get to enjoy the marathon.
Yeah, I was a little bummed. I couldn't stay for the marathon itself.
Oh
Yeah, just the travel day. I had work on Monday, so I really had to leave Sunday morning. But there was still the atmosphere of it. And when I got on the subway, on Sunday morning, there was people with their marathon bags going to the start line, and so the whole atmosphere was really amazing. And getting to run part of the course was really awesome.
yeah, I mean, talk about balancing being a professional runner and real life work situation. You got to go back and teach on Monday, huh?
Yeah, so um, but it's all good. I wished I could have stayed for just a couple more hours, but I was
Yeah.
still really happy for the opportunity.
Well, it's a late start time, late-ish start time as well. I guess most major marathons are, and they start all the way out in Staten Island. So even if you were downtown, it would take a little while before you could even see people in the city.
Totally.
Yeah. So tell us about your job as a teacher and kind of balancing that with running professionally.
Well, I always feel like I have to preface it because I'm a part-time teacher.
Oh,
So
you
it
are?
works
Okay.
it works really well. So I teach STEM, so it's science, technology, engineering, math, to grades 3, 4, and 5. And so that's an elective rotation for them. So I feel like when I was in elementary school, we did art and PE and those kind of things. And they still do some of that, but it's now it's STEM. So my kids go from art, PE, and library, and or sorry, STEM, PE, and library. I'm getting my own job mixed up.
Those are their
But
electives:
yes,
STEM,
and
PE, and
so
library.
yes, so we're in a small town. So I actually I teach all the third, fourth, and fifth graders, and I see all the second graders once a week. So it's from about 10:30 to 3-ish, and just I really enjoy it. So to me, it's not super challenging. The hardest part sometimes is just getting from a workout to standing up in the classroom. But other than that, it's a pretty good balance.
That does sound like a perfect balance. You're getting both of your loves in, and your love for teaching and your love for running in. Do you do I know a lot of professional runners like to get up and do their hard workouts a little bit later in the day, not first thing in the morning, but I'm assuming you probably have to prioritize that and get it done a little bit earlier.
Yeah, sometimes on the weekends we'll start around 9. And easy runs I can usually squeeze it in a little bit later. And when it starts to get cold and we have to get on the track, there's certain days where we'll do the track workout after school, just because it gets pretty cold here, and um, it's a little better to be sprinting at 3 o'clock than 8 in the morning, I guess. So
Pause here for the audio real quick. Emma, you're still in Mammoth, right?
yes,
Okay, and are you still being coached by Andrew?
yes.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. I sometimes trip on my words and say something, and then people are like, "Oh no, I left that group a month ago or something," and I'm caught off guard. So I just wanted to make sure before we go there.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so you live in Mammoth, which, I've had Deena and Andrew both on the podcast. So I've heard a little bit about the beautiful town that it is. And you kind of mentioned it's a smaller town. So tell us about how you decided to move there and what it's like living there.
So I decided in I stayed a fifth year at college, and I wanted to continue running, and I wasn't sure kind of where that would go. And I had just recently read Gina's book,
Ah,
Let Your Mind Run. And so I reached out to Coach Castor, um, and visited a few teams and really felt like Mammoth was the best fit.
yeah. So talk to me about finding Deena's book, because when Deena's book came out, what year was that? That was like, must have been 2017.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah. I remember, I mean, because since that book has come out, so many people just like rave about it. It's one of the best running books I've ever read, for sure. But you were pretty young when you read it. Like, how up to speed were you on like the distance running scene in regards to like knowing who Deena Kastor is and, following the sport, because she's like quite a bit older than you?
Yeah, so I wasn't, I don't think I really knew much about professional running until, maybe as a sophomore in college. Jenny Simpson was, my idol. But growing up, I didn't grow up in a runner family or anything like that. So I was just kind of in my bubble of high school runners. So yeah, I didn't really know much about Deena, and
How'd you stumble
definitely
upon the
didn't really know
book?
much about the marathon. I don't remember, honestly. I maybe heard about it in a podcast or maybe even just Amazon. I can't really remember,
Uh-huh.
but I was going through a pretty challenging time in terms of enjoying the sport. And I kind of had this false idea that the best runners were, the most disciplined. And if you were having too much fun, or, if you weren't constantly almost like punishing yourself, like you couldn't be a good runner. And then I read Deena's book and I was like, well, she's the best of all time, and she didn't do that.
Oh, that's so great.
And so I think that, yeah, and I think that moving forward, that was probably the most important thing for me, was that if I was going to continue running, I really needed to find a balance of how to do it happily, because I realized I was like, I think I could be a better runner, but I'm not going to spend the next, however many years of my life sacrificing being happy in order just to become a better runner.
That's so, so great that you also realized that so early on in your career, right? Like, I think that a lot of people are stressed out as college athletes. Like, that's got to be really hard to balance running at that high of a level and then also balancing your studies. And then at some point wondering, am I going to try to go pro? Tell me, in college, when you decided, like, I might try to go pro, and talk about reaching out to Andrew Kastor and figuring all that out.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly when I had that switch. I was actually a walk-on and had kind of a big breakthrough my sophomore year. Um, and then was really progressing, especially in the mile, was really cutting down my times every year by a good margin, but also struggled with injury a lot. I think I ended up having 2 or 3 stress fractures by the end of my 5th year. And so really, I didn't start the process of reaching out to coaches until after NCAA's my 5th year. And I visited a few teams, and Andrew brought me out here. And so once I visited here, I was pretty sure it's what I wanted to do. The other teams I visited were Atlanta Track Club and New York, New Jersey. And I realized really quickly that I'm a small town girl. I think I was like driving around with one of the girls trying to find a parallel parking spot. And I was like, I don't think I can do this.
No.
And then I came to Mammoth, and, town is like 4 square, or yeah, I think it's 4 square miles or something like that. Like, I do my double and it's like, I can cover all of town. And so I grew up in a small town. I went to college in a college town, and I realized that's kind of what is my best fit, or definitely was at that point in time.
I mean, also talk about picking a beautiful, beautiful place to live. I mean, no shade to Atlanta or New Jersey, but come on.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. I really had never vacationed or anything like Mammoth. I grew up at the beach in South Carolina, so just totally opposite.
Oh, you did? Where in South Carolina did you grow up?
Pawleys Island. It's
You
kind of
grew
south of
up
Myrtle
in
Beach.
Pawleys Island? I've
Yeah.
vacationed there before.
Oh, really? Where did you
I don't
stay?
even remember. I went, it was like my sophomore year of college. I actually went with like a old boyfriend's family to Pawleys
Okay.
Island. Yeah, and it was so fun. But, when you go places like that, I don't imagine like people living there.
Yeah.
So did you grow
Yeah,
up like living on the beach?
I'm really lucky. Yeah, my family grew up my parents are still in the same house. It's like 2 blocks from the beach.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah, so I really lucky, really blessed. It was a great place to grow up, and um, but you kind of are, I guess, I was a little bit in a bubble. Like I didn't really know much about the rest of the world in a lot of ways, and it wasn't like my parents would always joke that we never went on vacation because they would say, well, you grew up on vacation, so we don't need to go somewhere.
Right. I wonder,
um,
I'm so curious like about because we just moved to North Carolina from Indiana, not in a beach town. We live in
okay.
Raleigh, but like part of moving here for my husband and myself and my kids was like we wanted easier access to go to the beach and things like that so that like vacation didn't have to feel like this big like got to get on an airplane, got to drive 12 hours, like all these things.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious, like, were your parents born and raised there, or did they like decide like we want to live in a place that feels like vacation?
Yeah, both my parents, I was actually born in Philadelphia, and that's where both my parents, they grew up in suburbs of Philadelphia. And I think my dad was hoping to kind of get into like the golf industry, which
Okay.
is huge in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And that really didn't end up happening. I think when I moved there, he was a bartender, and then my parents grew their own business in home improvement
Oh, cool.
and construction, and so that's what they've done most of my life. But yeah, I think that I don't think either of them really like the cold very much, and so that might have been a factor. And yeah, so we just we've lived there ever since. They've been in the same house for 20 years. And yeah, so I think also just sorry, losing my train of thought.
No,
But
no, we can edit. Don't worry. When that happens, don't
oh
worry.
good.
I do it all. I do it all the time on my end, so don't worry.
oh good. Glad to hear that.
Yes, all the time.
um, but yeah, so it was really amazing growing up at the beach, and we never or at least I never felt sick of it, which I felt like some people I grew up with like would say they didn't like going to the beach, and I'd be like, what do you mean? and,
Did you like
and so
did you like surf or like did you grow up like doing anything like were you in the water all the time?
I attempted to surf. I had a surfboard. I was not very good at it, and the waves are pretty small.
Yeah.
Which isn't actually a really good excuse because there was like a couple of kids in my neighborhood who would go to these like competitions in Hawaii and do really well.
Yeah.
I think I just wasn't coordinated. But yeah, we were in the water a lot, but also it makes you kind of a baby because we're so spoiled with the warm water.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really like to swim in the ocean unless it's like 75 degrees.
Yeah.
And so now living in California, like the water's never that warm. But yeah, just that was really nice. And then once I got older, I would always incorporate the beach as like a bit of my run. I didn't like running on the beach for like
Mm-hmm.
a long period of time, but I could always, do a mile on the beach probably. And there's not dog leash laws, so our dog could just go and run. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we were there a lot.
I whenever we go to the beach, I always like to do my run and then like finish the last mile on the beach just to like it's like I'm like right by the ocean. There's no reason not to get a little bit, but I don't want to do the whole thing on the ocean.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a straight line and it's soft, so
Yeah.
sometimes it's too soft. If the tide's perfect, like I will run 4 or 5 miles if it's like perfect conditions.
Yeah.
If it's less than perfect, a mile is my limit.
Okay, so Pawleys Island then you coming from a small town, was your high school like small like the high school you teach at now at Mammoth?
Yeah, so Mammoth's probably a little bit smaller, but mine was still small. I graduated, I think, with maybe 130 kids, so
Okay. Yeah.
they're
So
pretty small.
okay, so then what did that look like walking on? It's pretty remarkable that you were a walk-on at Clemson and then you end up like running pro. I feel like when you walk on to a program, you're thinking, okay, I might fight tooth and nail to try to be top 5 or whatever, but then turning out to become an All-American and then running pro, did you have those dreams at all, or were you just like, I'm gonna walk on and work hard?
Yeah, I think it was more the latter. I never really understood running outside of the lens of South Carolina running.
Yeah.
So I didn't know there was such a thing as a high school nationals. I never heard of Foot Locker. That was just that, even that side of running wasn't part of my radar. So I was really adamant, probably as a junior in high school, that I wanted to run in college, but I didn't really know what that would look like. And reaching out, I had a lot of schools that told me I wasn't fast enough even to walk on, which
Wow.
was, that's, you don't want to hear that. But I remember visiting at Clemson, and the coach there at the time was telling me these stories of these girls who were walk-ons and ended up becoming All-American. And when he told me that, I was pretty much sold. And he told me I had a spot on the team, and I thought that was so cool to think about. And I do remember my neighbor was a college basketball coach. He coached at USC in South Carolina, and he had mentioned one time, like offhandedly, that walk-ons could improve and then earn a full scholarship. And I was like, oh, really? Like, you can earn that? And I thought that was really cool. But it was also the most affordable option to go to a public in-state school, which really there's only a few in South Carolina. So I would say, yeah, I really idolized like the great South Carolina runners. And
Who were they?
so I was, well, the funniest story was, so Evie Tate she was like the 4A, which was like the large school. She was, I think, state champion or state runner up. And I don't remember maybe she broke 18 minutes or something like that, which to me was like so amazing.
Yeah.
And so when I found out we were going to be teammates, I was so excited. And, I did the whole Facebook stalk. And then the funniest part though was then the summer before, so I'd already committed to walking on. I'm working at the grocery store. I was a cashier at Piggly Wiggly, and she came in my line. She was on vacation, Pawleys Island, and my jaw literally dropped. And I was like, and I said, and her dad was like, oh, do you guys know each other? And I go, you're Evie Tate. We're going to be teammates at Clemson. And I was so over the moon. And it's so funny. She ended up, she's one of my best friends now. We lived together for 3 years.
Oh my
and
gosh.
She's going to be a bridesmaid at my wedding. And so it was just really funny. But yeah, I was a major fangirl. So I still am a little bit. But
was she already there, or is she in the same grade as you?
She's the same age.
Okay.
So she was also going to be a freshman.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. That is such a great story. Evie Tate, is she running still?
Yeah, she's a PT in Montana, and she has kind of moved into like the trail and ultra running.
Okay.
I don't really understand how they do that, but It's amazing. She's incredible.
So interesting that you two South Carolina ladies moved over to like the mountains and California. So far from home.
Yeah, so yeah, so I don't know, maybe that influenced me a little bit because she didn't take a fifth year. She moved to Montana after our senior year. And so I don't know, maybe that deep down gave me a little bit of courage that I could do it too.
Is it hard being away from your family?
Yeah, at times. I guess we're living in a day and age where I still get to see them twice a year. And actually my dad came to New York City, which was really fun. So he could see some of his siblings as well. But yeah, I feel like with training and everything, you do have some of those challenges of getting to go home very frequently anyway. So I still see them at Christmas and in the summer. So that's really nice, but it can be hard.
So now that you're engaged, where is your fiance's family from?
His family's also from South Carolina.
Oh, that's nice.
Kind of more in-state. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice for when you travel back home because you probably can make it a point to see both families.
Definitely.
What's the distance between his family and yours like?
I think it's about 4 hours.
Oh, okay. Well, it's still a bit of a hike. You got to do a little bit of a state tour.
Yeah, it's nice that that it is drivable. So we talk about, in the future, like Christmas especially is one where you can really spend time with both families, which is really nice.
Yeah, you have time. Yeah, we're going home to Indiana for Christmas, and it's like my family and my husband's family live 3 hours away. So our friends, because we lived
Okay.
in the city, are in the middle. So we're like gonna do like a
Oh,
total state, kind of like state tour again.
oh my gosh.
So talk to us about when you and your fiance met, because I know that's a fun story.
Yes, we met in line at Panera the day before cross country nationals.
Okay, what year was that?
Actually,
Like, what grade were you
that was
in?
2016. I was a senior. That was the only year I went to nationals, and so it was 5 years ago today we met actually.
Oh, today, this day.
Um, yes, down to the day.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we were both in line at Panera, and I was there as an individual. He was there with his team, and going to cross country nationals as individual can be really lonely at
I
times,
bet.
because I just remember being in line at Panera, and there was like 6 teams that were all eating lunch there,
All
because
together.
it was lunchtime and we were in Terre Haute, so there was like not very many options. And so yeah, I was just super intimidated in ways, and he was behind me in line, and I think his team, along with my coach and trainer, had gone to Chili's, and I didn't want to eat. I think I got food poisoning at Chili's when I was like 7, so I like
Never
really
again.
have it against Chili's. Was definitely not going there the day before nationals.
No way.
But yeah, so one of his high school teammates had ran at Clemson, and that was kind of how he started the conversation. And yeah, so we just met, and then I we reconnected maybe March or April of that year, and I was kind of really going through a hard time. I just had another stress fracture, and he had also been injured, but kind of pulled things together and made it to nationals, and he did as well, which he was really incredible. Was ranked maybe like 20 or 30th in the region, and ended up coming in third at regionals.
Oh, wow.
And I just remember like watching the flash results, because I had rounds for the 1500, and so I was back at the hotel getting treatment or something, and I remember the flash results crash, and I was like really upset, and then I was laughing at myself. I was like, why do you care? Like, you've only met this guy once. And then he qualified, and then I qualified the next day, and so he was at the Naval Academy, and went to the Marine, or joined the Marines afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And so we had been talking for a long time, so I kind of knew at that point that after he graduated, he'd be going to basic training. And I kind of figured at that point, I was like, well, we're probably never going to see each other again. So I don't know, I didn't have much stock in it when we went on that first date at nationals, but here we are getting married 5 years later. So
Yeah. What does that look like with him being a Marine now? Has he been overseas?
Mhm.
Is he going overseas?
He's going overseas in May. So we kind of planned it that we would get married before his deployment. But he's stationed in San Diego, which is really nice for being able to see each other a lot more now.
How far are you from
Um,
San Diego?
6 hours, so it's
Oh,
not that close,
yeah.
but it's
An
closer.
easier plane ride. When you're in Mammoth, what airport do you fly out of?
So normally Reno or LA.
Okay.
So yeah, LA is like a 5 hour drive, which is kind of funny to say. Like,
That's
that's
how
the airport
far
we
from
fly
the
out of.
airport you are? 5 hours?
But in the winter, I don't like driving or flying out of Reno, because I really hate driving the snow still. And
Yeah.
if it's snowy from here to Reno, it's like it could be snowy the whole time. Where if it snows in Mammoth, you really only have to drive 30 minutes and you're out of it going south. So I would prefer an extra hour drive than be in the snow
So
for 3 hours.
Reno is how many is 3 hours.
Reno's 3. Yeah, Reno's 3, and LA's probably closer to 4.5, but then like traffic, you have to factor in.
Wow, I feel
So
really spoiled. I'm like complaining that there's not one direct flight from Raleigh to Indy, but I could just drive to Charlotte 2 hours and get a direct flight.
well, we are having some seasonal flights. So
Okay.
I'm really excited. There's this like it's called Advanced Airlines. It's like this private, semi-private airline that is flying out of Mammoth Lakes. So
Oh.
going home so for Christmas, this is like my ideal situation. I'm flying from Mammoth Lakes to Carlsbad, and then the next day I'm flying from San Diego to Myrtle Beach.
Okay. Oh, that's nice.
So
That's a straight flight.
that flight, it was like, I was like, gas is so expensive. I did the math and I was like, honestly, I think I'm actually spending the same amount of money doing this flight that I am driving my
Yeah.
car. So,
Yeah.
because gas is, I think it was $5.39 last night when I went to get
Wow.
gas. Like it's
That's
really bad.
insane.
It's so bad, especially if you're in the Carolinas. Like it's usually really good there. Like
I
I think the last time I was home, it was under $2.
Yeah, I
But
think it's like I think it might be three something, but low threes right now. That's insane. Oh my
it's
gosh.
crazy.
So, how do you feel about that? Like getting married in April and then him going off to deployment. Do you guys know how long he'll be gone?
He'll be gone for 6 months, and he's going
Wow.
to Okinawa, Japan, which is it's a really nice place. So, yeah, I think we both we've known he was going to get deployed for a long time, and it was just kind of when we were talking about it, deciding whether we wanted to do it before or after. And I think regardless, it would have been hard whether we were married or not yet. So, um, but yeah, so it just is what it is. But
Yeah. Well, you have, your training and your teaching to keep you busy. I always find that when I'm in a stressful season of life or whatever you want to call it, maybe you don't feel it's stressful, but just like harder. If I have lots of things to keep myself busy, that really
mhm,
helps.
totally. And the summer's nice because just racing a lot, hopefully, and um, getting to travel more and stuff. So, um, yeah, and I would love to go visit him. So we'll see
Oh,
if that can
cool.
happen. So,
That would be
yeah,
awesome. That would be awesome.
yeah,
Have you ever been to Japan?
no.
Oh.
But we had a training. We have a girl who Andrew coaches, who lives in Tokyo, and so she comes to Mammoth a couple times a year, and her sister just got married in Okinawa. So I get to hear things from her,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, I've only been out of the country once. So,
Okay, so let's talk about your fifth year in college because you
mhm,
walked on and then you talked about being told you could earn a scholarship. So when did that
mhm.
happen? Did that happen?
Yeah, so I earned a partial scholarship after my freshman year,
Okay.
and then um, that fifth year, I kind of went to the head coach, and I really hate asking for things, but I was on a lot of state money and academic scholarship, which only last 4 years, and so I had to go to him, and I really couldn't afford to stay the fifth year if I didn't have more scholarship. And so he was really generous and helped me, and was that head coach was he really believed in me from the first week, and so I really grateful for everything he did for me.
Who did you have to get like a pep talk from your parents or anybody to say like go ask like you because I mean people don't ask people aren't going to just give if you don't ask and I mean that's just like a lesson you have to learn in life a lot of times like every little thing you do you could probably always ask for a little bit more than you feel comfortable asking and the chances are you might get it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I probably wouldn't have asked until I really needed it.
Like
I
I
think
have to have this money.
it was a little frowned upon to ask for money.
Yeah.
And I remember like as a freshman, like some people on my team told me I should ask for money, and I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm not asking for anything."
It's
But
embarrassing. Like it's I don't know why it's like a hard thing to do.
yeah, but I think I just kind of knew at that point that in order to stay the fifth year, I really I needed it, and um, so yeah, he was really helpful. And I kind of had a unique situation as an education major. You do your student teaching the spring of your senior year, but you can only miss, I think you only get one excused absence for like the whole semester. And I was like, I went to them, I was like, that is one track meet. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
gone every single weekend. And so my advisor was my math problem solving teacher, and he was like, it's just like a problem in class, and was so great. So I started my master's the spring of my senior year, and then before I graduated, and then I did my student teaching the fall of my 5th year. So at that point I really had to take a 5th year because I had not done my student teaching. But I didn't have cross country eligibility for my 5th year. So I did that. And just really had Clemson really had so many amazing people helping me make that happen.
So do you think staying for your 5th year was a big part of being able to go pro?
It's hard to say. My 5th year was definitely not my most successful year. I definitely struggled. It was probably one of my slower years, and I got hurt and I struggled a lot. So, yeah, I don't know if I would say that necessarily, but
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking, yeah, no, I don't necessarily think that. I think, I really barely lowered any times my 5th year, except maybe my 800 got a little faster, and my 15 maybe a second faster, but, I think my senior year was actually probably a little bit more successful.
Yeah. Okay. So then talk about, I know we kind of like touched on the deciding to go to Mammoth and working with Andrew, but once you got out there and everything, what does everything look like?
Well, it's a really beautiful place, and it's also really hard because we live at almost 8,000 feet.
It's crazy.
And so, yeah, Deena always tells us it doesn't get easier; you just get faster. And it's true. It's very hard. But yeah, I think like, the first few months of living here, I would verbally remind myself, you live here now. And I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was living in this dream. And so at the time we had team condos, and so I got to live with 3 other women on the team. But those were a donation from Mammoth Mountain, and there's kind of a housing crisis in Mammoth. And so they had to take that donation back for employee housing by the end of that first year here. And so when that happened, a lot of the girls who were living here had to leave and, kind of moved on. But I had kind of shown like I'd shown myself some signs that I could really keep improving here, and wanted to do what I could to make that work. So I started working at the after school program initially, and that was really helpful just to have like a little bit of income. And then eventually got my teaching job, which has really helped. So, yeah.
Who were the girls that you lived with?
It was Sandy Rains, Sarah Attar, and Margot Malone.
Oh, cool. So are they all gone?
Yes.
So was that hard? Like, you kind of build this community with these women, and like, does it feel lonely? Who's still on the team?
So for women right now, it's me, Deena, and then Karina. She keeps teaching me how to say her name in Afrikaans, but I'm gonna say it wrong.
Yeah, I understand that as someone who has to like.
Her name's.
Go ahead.
I know. I always feel bad too. I have like 200 students, and I say their names wrong all the time.
Yeah.
But it's Viljoen, and I'm saying it incorrectly. But she just graduated from Arkansas, and she's amazing.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. So she just joined the team in August, and we really are lucky because we have women coming in and out. So there are teams that come up for altitude training, and we can hop in with them, and so that's always really nice.
Who are some of the teams that come up and you've been able to train with?
The Golden Coast Track Club is probably the biggest one. So like last fall, I really did almost all of my training with Emily Lapari and Sarah Pagano and Heidi C, which was really, really great. And so Sarah Pagano's fiance is on our team. So she's up here a good bit. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So I know like with COVID and everything, things probably got weird for a little while, but I also
Hmm.
know that like with Deena and Andrew, they have a very much like a family feeling environment. Do you get that from the team, and do you guys do dinners with them and things like that?
Yeah, they're very much a family. So, Piper's one of my students actually. So,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's Deena's daughter,
Um,
if anybody's doesn't know who that
yeah.
is.
But yeah, I had dinner at their house last night, and I think that's made the world of difference. COVID was really hard, but I also was able to go spend a good chunk of time with my
Oh,
fiance,
nice.
and yeah, and the Castors, they truly are. I consider them like family, and so yeah. So I've never regretted moving here or anything. There have been times where training, we have to kind of work it a little bit differently. Like last year, I really had most of my workouts in the spring was like trying to like get into the guys workouts where I could, which I think was pretty annoying for them at times. But like if they were doing 400s, I might do 300s, or we might stagger it where I tried not to get caught, those kind of things. And so that's always helpful too. But Karina being on the team has been really, really nice.
Oh, I bet.
So,
Yeah, I feel like if you move far away from home, it's really important. And you can't just like find people, but you fell into it with choosing who your coach was. But like find
mhm.
a mentor type, or like just an older couple that's like older than you, or a family that is older than you, that you can kind of lean on as like a second family, like a family away from your family.
Yeah, and I've been lucky too. So when we had that housing crisis, or when we lost our housing, my I posted something on like the buy sell trade Facebook page, and a woman from my church reached out, who she's retired and had a spare bedroom, and so I've lived with
Oh,
her for the past like 2.5 years, and I met her at church, and she's really become like family to me as well. So,
wow. That's where
um,
you live now?
yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
so cool.
yeah, I think that's the nice part of a small town, is that you kind of do find those little family niches, and so I have a good niche at church, and then at school, and then through the team. So just a lot of support in the community.
What kind of church do you go to?
Catholic church.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's talk about this past year of racing. Seventh place at the trials in the 1500. I mean, talk about running that in a stacked field. I mean, that field was no joke.
Yeah, it was really stacked, but it was exciting too. It was kind of a mix of girls who I raced against in college, and then girls, or I should say women, um,
I do that all the time.
and then women who I idolized. So it was a pretty amazing experience. And so just being there for me was really special, and making it to the final was my goal pretty much the whole year. So getting to that was exciting.
Yeah, and you ran a PR, right?
I matched my PR down to the 10th of a second.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So I
So
thought it was kind of funny.
yeah, but I mean, that probably felt like, did that feel like a really successful race for you? And I mean, obviously you made it to the final, so multiple races, but like, did you feel like I came here and accomplished what I needed to do?
Yeah, I was probably the happiest seventh place finisher. I always joke about that. I was really happy with it. Just because I've really struggled in college, especially when I would make it to nationals, make it to the final, just with anxiety, and um, I was definitely someone who would choke, and
Mm.
so I really wanted to kind of move past that, and just, for me, it wasn't necessarily. I thought on a very amazing, everything aligned, there's maybe a possibility I could make it, but that to me was, a reaching goal, and
Mhm.
so my biggest goal was really just to compete to my fitness level, and I think I did that. And the 3 rounds was really tough, I would say. I
I
don't know if
bet.
some people can handle that better, but that was really challenging for me, racing 3 times in a row hard. So
Remind us how many days apart were the races?
So the first round was on the first day, the second round was on the second day, and the third round was on the fourth day. So there
You had
was
one
a day
day.
of rest
Okay.
in between the second round and the third round. There's a day of rest. So
I mean, that's an experience thing too, right? Like this is your first time like doing those rounds like that and at like the Olympic trials. So, if you're competing, say you have like a Jenny Simpson in the race, it's like, "Oh, she's done that like dozens upon dozens of times." So you're new
totally,
to it.
totally.
What like once you finished 7th there,
hmm
what was like the next step for you? Like what were you like, okay, now I know where I'm at. I know that like on
hmm
that good day I placed 7th. I matched my PR. Now what are my goals?
I have actually, I think it's still on my mirror. I never took it down. I
Oh,
just had Olympic trials. That was my goal. And I had a couple of time goals that I needed to get to the trials.
yeah.
And so I think really I just wanted to get into some races and race well. And that was kind of the fun thing about, leading up to the trials, you're really concerned about time because you want to try and get the time to qualify for the trials. And then once I kind of had that time, it was like, oh, well, could I maybe hit the Olympic standard? And so really you're so time focused. And so then after the trials, being able to focus more on racing and go to races that were fun and that kind of switching gears to just writing out any fitness that we built and trying to earn some prize money. Those were kind of more of the goals. So
You talked about not choking and like not having that anxiety for the finals in the Olympics. And earlier you also mentioned like there was a time when you needed to find the joy in running again. So,
mhm.
what transpired in your life that helped you in that department?
I guess a lot of different things can play into it. I think the success I found in college was really scary for me. And
Mm.
so I kind of went from not having any pressure, I'm just doing this for fun, to all of a sudden making it to nationals and feeling like the weight of the world that I have to perform well there. And um, I think a big part of it was Deena's book was really helpful for me, and I've worked with a sports psychologist over the years, and then just having just some really great mentors in this sport. Um, Emily Lapari really jumps to mind. She's someone who I've looked up to for a really long time and have gotten to know pretty well over the past few years. And I had a really rough day. There was like some race in maybe February or March, early March, in Texas, and I had ran like kind of a crappy 1500, and then was supposed to pace. I think it was the 10K, and I stepped off early for my pacing duties, and I just felt like this is terrible. What am I doing with my life? And I remember Emily and Sarah Emily Lipari and Sarah Pagano were leaving that day from the race too, and we were all kind of down. Like,
Mm.
I don't know if it wasn't a great race day. I don't know how many people left that day with a great race, but we went out to dinner, and um, I just I just really felt supported by them, and Emily said something to me once that really stuck. That was, you have to do it for you. You can't really do it for anybody else. And so that was something I thought about. And I really love being a part of the sport and not wanting to give that up, and kind of realizing like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I have to just do it for fun and for wanting to do it, not because I have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's putting on the hat of like, I get to do this. I don't have to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
Does your fiance still run?
Yes, so he does. He's been kind of struggling with injuries for the past couple of years, and I guess that's probably why I always, when people say anything about my job, they're like, "Oh, it's so great, you can work and run." I always look back at him because my work schedule is nothing compared to his.
Oh, sure.
He has really long days, and he just spent 6 weeks in the desert doing 12-hour work days and just really crazy, crazy things. And so when he's healthy and able to train, he does really great. And so it's just kind of a matter of trying to stay healthy for him at the moment.
What what made him want to join the Marines? Is that in his family, or what's up with that?
Yeah, so he does have a lot of military in his family, and he went to the Naval Academy, which when you go to the Naval Academy, you owe service. So that it's a pretty big deal to get accepted.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, so he so I think that's why. And he's a pilot, and my favorite
wow.
picture of him is like him when he was like probably like 3 or 4. His dad's a aircraft mechanic, and so there's like a picture of Lucas like in I think it's a plane or a helicopter or something, but when he's like 3 or 4. But yeah, so that's kind of how he got into it. And yeah.
I am in awe of pilots. I just I cannot imagine having that job. Like just can't imagine doing it. I have a girlfriend, her and her husband are they're in the reserves, and now she's a stay-at-home mom now, but her husband flies. He flies like commercial now, but they flew in the military for years, and I'm like, I can't even wrap my head around being that badass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I don't like to think about it too much.
Yeah.
When it's like he's flying at night and I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And I know he's flying the helicopter. I think probably like one time when it really like hit me, like the weight of what he was doing was I was quizzing him flashcards. He had some kind of something going on, and I was doing his flashcards, and the one that got me, and he was just, rattling off these percentages and numbers. I had no idea what he was talking about, but I was doing my duty. And the one that came up, it was 3 engine failure. And he was like saying the procedure if there's a 3 engine failure. I was like, oh God.
You're like, 3 engines, all 3?
I don't want to think about that. And so, yeah, it's really cool. And a lot of his friends are pilots, and it's really amazing what they do. He works really hard, and it's really amazing. But I also am not ready to get in a helicopter with him. I'm gonna need a few more years of experience.
I don't think so. No. Well, you can tell him thank you for his service from all of us.
Will do.
Okay, so you were in Raleigh for the Sir Walter Mile, and I was there, and I didn't even know.
Yeah, that was a great event. Really exciting.
And you PR'd 4:29 in the mile?
Yes.
Tell us about that. It seems like everybody loves that race.
Oh, it was really fun. I had a great host. And
who was your host?
Just
it's okay.
Can you put me on the record?
Yeah.
I know her name. It's still early.
We can cut that question if you can't remember.
Okay. No, I do remember her name. Let me just Rita Beard. I don't know why I couldn't think of that.
Okay.
Or no, Rita Dory. Let me double check. Her name was Rita. I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's
I don't know. Names really catch me sometimes. Okay. Rita Beard. Okay. Can I just say Rita? Because I want to double check on her last name.
All good.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry.
You can just say Rita and then carry on. And we'll cut all this out.
Oh, great. Okay. Rita was my host from the Raleigh Distance Project, and she was so great. And just they had a really amazing field. And being close to home was really nice. So overall, just a great experience.
Oh, yeah. Did you get to go home?
Yeah, so I spent probably about 3 weeks home in the summer going back and forth between races.
Oh, nice.
So,
yeah, like just races on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Raleigh, and it just made more sense to stay home the whole time,
Okay, so
which was
next
nice.
year for the Sir Walter, like I had literally just
Hmm.
moved here. I was here for like 4 days before the event, but everybody
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
"You have to go to this event. It's a big deal." Blah blah blah. So I'm like, "Okay, I'll go." But like, I didn't do any research on who would be there, and I was just kind of like there. I went to the athlete dinner, and then the next day, I came out to the race. I brought two of my kids with me, and I just wasn't up to date as much as I should have been. So next year I'll like have the field. I'll like know who's going to be there and all the things.
Yeah, it was a really stacked field, and
It
I've never been
was.
in a race with the crowd on the track.
Yeah.
That was really crazy. So I'd kind of like I made my move way too early, and so I was really running out of steam the last 100, but it felt like some kind of dream because the atmosphere is just crazy. It was really exciting.
Yeah, so for people listening, they let the fans the people are in the stands and on the inside of the track, and everybody kind of like run, there's people on all around the track. And so yeah, it's kind of crazy. I feel like also kind of dangerous, like you guys, if you're in lane 1 and like people are leaning in from the infield, what if you had like a kid like run out? I had two of my kids, my big kids though, so like I wasn't worried about that, but I'm like, God forbid someone have like their 2 year old and the 2 year old accidentally get loose and like run in front of one of you guys.
Totally.
But yeah, it's at night and the lights are on, and yeah, it's a really cool event. And have you been to other races where they have host families like in the city, or do you usually just stay in a hotel?
That was my first time with a host family, so I know other races do it. Um, one was that was cool was the Guardian Mile in Ohio. We stayed in a hostel, which was
Okay.
interesting. So I think there was maybe 4 or 6 women I was sharing like a bunk bed room with, which was fun. But yeah, I liked the host family. I thought it was nice.
We might be a host family next year for Sir Walter, and I was like, how will that work? Because we have so many kids and also like only a 3 bedroom house. But I decided like we'll just give whoever stays with us our bedroom, and like because my husband and I, we can sleep on the couch. It's not a big deal. So I'm like, I guess that's what we'll do, because otherwise it just wouldn't work in our house.
Okay.
So I'll sleep in the living room so that an athlete could stay at our house.
It's
It
very generous of you.
it's also though like I wonder how many host families have lots of little kids, because I feel like staying at our house would be
Mhm.
a completely different experience. It's very loud and lively here. Lots of
I would
action.
enjoy that. I like the kids, but
Okay. Well, perfect. You're a teacher. That makes sense. Okay, so this year you also ran the Olympic standard in the 5,000, 15. What?
Mhm.
Oh no, you almost made the Olympic standard. Did you make it?
Mhm. No, it's
And
15:10.
you were 15:12.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how does that make you feel? Like, does that make you excited to kind of like move up and do more 5Ks, or are you still sticking hard to the 15?
Um, yeah, I mean, the 15's more fun, I
Yeah.
think, but 5K still feels really long to me.
Yeah.
But I think, um, it was a huge improvement. I technically my PR before this year, I think was
Oh, that's
17:12 or
hilarious.
something like that.
So you knew
So
like no matter what, you were going to smash that.
yeah, so I ran a 5K last September, and then I just kind of ran a few more throughout the year and knew I had a lot more room to grow in the 5K. So I was never expecting to, I really never thought I could run the trial standard in the 5K. That was really surprising for me. And so then being so close to the Olympic standard, I guess then that was kind of, I was about a second away I'm less than a second away in the 15, and then 2 seconds away in the 5K. So, I guess when you like think about it, in one way, I was like, oh, well, it's a lot less seconds per lap if I do the 5K that I have
Totally.
to cut off. But also, I think conditions like 5K conditions need to be like a little better. I ran it at one of those sound running races where it was like set up perfectly, the weather
Hmm.
was perfect. Whereas a 15, I feel like you can kind of do the same thing in different
Like you
conditions.
can suffer through the
Um,
heat a little bit more.
I don't even feel like you feel the heat. Like the race is over before you get hot.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I think like warming up was the hardest part, like wearing an ice vest or something.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the 15 just so fast. Like um, I guess in one sense, I do think I have a lot more room to grow in strength versus speed. Like at this point in the game, in order to make a team or anything like that, you really need to be able to run sub 60 for the last 400 um, of a 15, which I have not quite mastered yet. So um, yeah, and then the 5K too. You regardless, you need to be able to close fast, and so
Yeah.
really just working on that. So
So what will you and Andrew, like what kind of concoction will you guys come up with to work on that?
um, not really changing anything. I think the nice part about living at altitude is regardless of what you're doing, you're working on your strength.
Yeah.
It's just hard. So I've really had to focus, especially on sustained efforts. Tempos have never been my favorite, but really working on tempo work and in terms of speed work, doing some more stuff in the gym. We have a really amazing physical therapist who we work with who does all of our strength training. And so I think a lot of that strength really transfers over to speed on the track. But yeah, I think, kind of regardless of what your goal is, you just show up to practice and you try and be a little bit better than you were the week before or the year before. So,
What's your favorite thing about working with Andrew, your coach?
um, that's hard. He's great. I think probably my favorite thing is I've never doubted that he cared about me first and foremost as a person
Mm.
before an athlete. And he's always kept my best interest at heart and is really willing to go out above and beyond to make sure I'm taken care of and um, has never, put an insane amount of pressure on me. I think that was like the first race I ran with him there. It was Club Cross in 2018, I guess. And I really wanted to make the team that they were sending to Scotland because I've never been out the country, and that was like my only goal. But and I just remember before the race, I was like expecting like this pep talk or something, or like some great race advice. And he'd never been to races before, and we like are getting ready to the line. I'm like, he hasn't said anything about the race. Like, what am I supposed to do? and I'm like thinking, I'm like, is there a plan? And like we're going to the, and he hits me on the shoulder and he goes, "All right, be tough." And I was like, that's it. and, so then in the race, I was like, okay, just be tough. And so yeah, he's great. But I would say, yeah, just his whole demeanor and really caring about you as a person is my favorite part.
I love that. That's so good. Be tough. I'm just gonna start saying that to everybody before any race. Be tough. I mean, what it boils down to is that's what you need to be.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that kind of like both Andrew and Deena, their mindset around racing, it's different than ways that I thought about it before. Like Deena, what she normally says before a race is always something along the lines of make today a day you're proud of.
Mm.
And it really puts you in control, and it's kind of like thinking like, okay, what do I need to do to make myself proud? And ultimately, what that comes down to is really giving your all throughout the entire race. And and it's that whole idea of being process oriented instead of goal oriented. And so, I think in the sports world and in the education world, growth mindset is something that is really big right now. Like I read, I think my sports psychologist in college recommended Carol Dweck's mindset book to me, and it really stuck with me. But also, it was amazing. Felt like I was quoting it in all of my papers for education and in my master's papers. I was like, this is so amazing. But then you really have to think about like, what does that mean? And actually applying it is something different than just throwing around those buzzwords of growth mindset. And it's those day-to-day ways of applying it and really honoring like, okay, like I'm going to focus truly on how I'm doing this, not what the outcome is. So
That's really great. I love that so much. And also like make today a day you're proud of. It's like as you were saying that, I was like just thinking about that with my day right now. I was like, okay, what am I going to do today that I'm proud of? You know, like because you can just get so lost in a workout, in a race, in everyday life, and just like the wheels turning, you know? And so if you
Totally.
really like put that in your head every day, like, what am I going to do today that will be something I can be proud of? I think that we could all live much fuller lives.
I really agree. And it's sometimes you need something to break that cycle of negativity or what was me kind of days, you know.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, that's not to say like we shouldn't all have a day where we like watch Netflix and like just give ourselves a day to like relax and not be like focused on moving forward or whatever, but I mean like you don't want that to be the majority of your days. Like you want to do things that make you proud, make your family proud. And so, okay, everybody, go pick something that's going to make you proud today and just do it, even if it's like a 5-minute thing. Okay. That's the motivation for this from this conversation.
I love that.
It's really good. Okay, so you're sponsored by ASICS. Is that a great relationship? Are you super happy?
I'm not technically sponsored by ASICS.
Oh,
I
you're not.
have not signed anything.
Oh, why did I?
So
Why I have
I
that
get
in
gear
my.
from them.
Okay, I have that in my notes, so we can cut that out. Um,
I'm working on signing a deal, but at the moment I've just received gear from them.
okay, I'll just eliminate that. Emma, cut that out. um, so is your mind set on like securing a regular sponsorship with ASICS, who it's a gear sponsorship now?
Yeah, so we're hoping to have a whole so we're working on it. So hopefully soon we get things finalized, but yeah, I think they have great product and they've really supported Deena for a long time. So
Well, yeah, Deena and
they're great.
beyond Deena too, like any of the ASICS athletes I've talked to, like Sarah Hall, Diane New Curry, Emma Bates, like Lindsay Flanagan, I feel like ASICS seems to be a really like you mentioned with Andrew, like whole person focused brand.
hmm Yeah, I love what they stand for in sound mind, sound body. I think it's um really one of the most important things in sport, and it's um so I really stand with that and think especially with um yeah, sorry, you can scratch that. I don't know
It's
where I
okay.
was going with
No, it's
that.
okay.
But
What
yeah,
Go ahead.
oh, that was it. Sorry.
It's totally fine. Um, okay, last ASICS question. What's your favorite shoe to
hmm
train in? Like, what's your favorite, if you're going for like a tempo run, what are you running in?
Metaspeed Sky for sure. They're amazing.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's what the marathoners have been running in, and they really are incredible shoes.
okay, awesome. All right. Well, Grace, what's something professionally or personally that you would like to do that you haven't done yet?
Never been camping, and I really want to go camping. So I guess that's my my
Really?
personal one. Yeah. So,
That's surprising to
uh,
me.
yeah, I maybe in my backyard we would like set up a tent, but I don't even know if I ever spent the entire night out there. But yeah, so I really would love to go camping soon.
Okay. Get that done before the wedding.
Yes. Well, we're registering for some camping gear, so we might have to wait.
Nice. Nice. We just bought a tent for the first time. We're not big campers, but my husband went camping with my older two boys recently, and I'm like, oh, I guess we'll go all out, get the tent, get all the stuff. I prefer a bed. I prefer to be in my house if I can
You
choose.
know, after my first time camping, I might have a different
Yep.
perspective. But at the moment, the idea of it is really enticing. And I went on some really long hikes this summer. Me and my fiance did one 16-mile hike, which I had previously done as a run with Deena, but walking it takes a lot longer, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so there was so many people that were backpacking it, and I did think I was like, wow, it'd be so amazing to sleep here, like at this lake. It'd be so cool. So I think that's it.
Gonna do it. Okay. What's the best most recent book you've read?
The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Oh, that's a good one. I read that last summer.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Have you read any of her other books, Taylor Jenkins Reid?
No, have you?
I have read them all.
Oh,
They're
should
all
I
good.
should I invest? Okay, what's the next best one, would you
Oh,
say?
definitely Daisy Jones and the Six.
Oh, great. My dog's name is Daisy.
Yeah, do Daisy
So
Jones and the
that's perfect.
Six. Yes, and then after you read that one, do Malibu Rising.
Okay.
Because
Daisy Jones and the Six. I'll write that down.
Malibu Rising is the most recent Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and um, she pulls characters from Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones into Malibu Rising.
Oh,
So it's
very cool.
super interesting. Like it's like, um, yeah, it's just like the characters from those two books are just like kind of side characters or like, little pieces. She just kind of pulls them all together, but it's a totally different story. So it's really good. And then she has like her first few books that she wrote, and those are fine, but these three, Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones, and Malibu Rising, are by far her best.
Very cool. Yeah, it was amazing. I love the book.
Yeah, so good. Okay, who is someone fun, motivating, or inspiring you'd like to have coffee, tea, or cocktail with?
Well, at the moment, it's Taylor Swift time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Totally Taylor Swift
you
time.
know, yeah, she's been, one of my favorites for the longest time.
Yeah.
And now at this point, with Red re-released, I really would just love to have some coffee with her.
See, I gotta really listen to Red because I'm a big Taylor fan. That was definitely not one of my favorite albums of hers.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why, but like I just went on a run with my friend
Oh.
Jess yesterday, and she said she listened to the entire re-release on her long run that had marathon pace in it the other day, and I was like, dang, that's some big commitment to that album to like, just
I
listen to that.
I love listening to that album on a run. But also, I think that was my first concert. Was that concert, Red?
Yeah.
So I think it was that one. My first two concerts were Taylor Swift concerts.
I've never been to one.
I really recommend it. She's an amazing performer, but also I love Red. Even before All Too Well had its moment, I remember there was like one time I was driving from Pawleys Island to Clemson, which is like a 5-hour drive. And I listened to All Too Well for probably 2 hours straight. Just that song.
Just that song.
Just that song.
Were you going through a breakup?
No, I didn't really date. I just love the song.
Yeah.
There's just great emotion in the song.
Yeah. Isn't that funny though? Like sometimes you'll listen to songs like that. I'm like, I've been married for 13 years. Like there's no like breakups in my life or anything like that. But like there is some like emotional connection. It's weird.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I've never had a dramatic love life, but I love listening to it. So.
Yeah. Did you like love Folklore and Evermore?
Yes.
Okay.
But there were songs I loved and songs I didn't love.
Yeah.
But overall, yes, I did. And I was really excited because, they were a curveball. It was a surprise. Everyone loves a surprise.
Oh, it was amazing. And it was like at a time where we all needed it. I was so dramatic when the second one released. So when Evermore came out, this is so embarrassing. I started crying. Because I was
That's amazing.
I think I was like hormonal, about to start my period or something, and like I don't know, I just sad about who knows what, and I was like, oh my gosh, and it's out right now, like literally we can listen to it right now, and I started crying.
It's amazing. Honestly, I don't blame you. I'm a crier. I really believe better out than in. So, yeah, my older sister was like an original Taylor Swift fan.
Okay.
Like she saw her at this little House of Blues in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, that's
so like
so
her
cool.
very first album. And I'm really everything my sister does, I'm like her little shadow. I think she has like the best taste in everything from clothes to movies to shows. And so I definitely got into it because of her, or got into Taylor Swift because of her. But yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm a Swiftie for sure.
Okay, I have another interview at noon. And so in between this one and that one, I'm gonna put on Red, the new Red.
Well, you can listen to the 10-minute version of All Too Well.
Yes.
If you have 10 minutes. It's, it's an emotional, it's the ride.
I watched it on SNL. I had to see what the hype was about.
Oh, did they have the music video with it?
Yes, and it's in the background, and she's singing, and she does the entire 10 minutes on SNL.
It's pretty good.
So you have to go watch that. Cool. Okay, what's your last message to leave with the audience today?
Make today a great day and do something that makes you happy and somebody else happy.
I love that. That's so wonderful. I said to my kids today, my big kids going to school, um, hey, do something unexpectedly nice for someone at school today. Right? You know, like I always do the whole spiel, like be kind, all those things. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like robotic. You say those things, but I was like, do something unexpectedly kind for someone at school today. And Lewis, my 6-year-old, he's like, I'm always kind. I like,
oh my god,
just like so. And I'm like, no, but like do something like over the top, like dramatically kind. And you know, it just kind of goes over his head. But I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to feed that kind of stuff to them. And I don't know. It's
honestly, I could talk to you all for like 5 hours about just funny things the kids say.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, you're right there in the age. My oldest is in 3rd grade, and my second is in 1st grade. So you're right there in like, you know.
I love that age. I think right now, I don't know what my favorite grade is right now, but I guess it just depends. But the kids, they crack me up. Yesterday was the funniest because when I was gone for the 2 days for New York, I left, and yes, it was like 2 days ago. A girl comes up to me and said, "So, Miss Barnett, why weren't you here last week?" And I was like, "Oh, I had a race." And she goes, "Oh, okay. We thought you got married." And they're like, "So when's the wedding?" And I told them, and they were asking me about like my new last name, and I told them. And Lucas's last name is Stallnaker. And I was like, "Well, what do you guys think?" I was like, "I think I like Barnett better than Stallnaker." And they were like, "Yeah, we do too." But then the one girl goes, "Well, but your last name is going to be Stallmaker. And you're the STEM teacher." So actually, I do like that. They're just like the things they come up with.
Putting it all
are
together.
So cute.
Oh, and I always wish I could be a fly on the wall and like see how my kids are like actually acting and interacting and who's raising their hand and, you know, all that stuff.
It's fun. Yeah. And it is cute seeing like how they act differently in school versus out of school, and kind of seeing them in those different contexts. We do like a summer camp with the kids for the Mammoth Track Club, and so some of my students who are there, I think they're totally different like out of the track than they are in the classroom.
Oh,
so,
I bet.
Yeah, it's cute. The different situations, but
well, Grace, thanks for taking the time to talk with us, and congratulations again at the New York City 5K.
Thank you so much for having me.
I guess I should call it the New York Roadrunners 5K, right? What do you call it?
I think Abbott to the 5K.
Abbott to the 5K. There we go. Cool. Well, have a great rest of your day, and tell Deena I said hi.
I will. Bye.
Okay. Bye, Grace.